Hi everyone, I'm Jody. Welcome to my channel and welcome to it's Friday Face-Off Day. This is one of my favorite videos to do. I do one every other Friday throughout the entire year where we compare two loved products side by side to see which one's really the best on more mature skin. Today we are reviewing the very popular Charlotte Tilbury Cream Contour Wand up against, I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? The one that was, I think, created just to be a dupe for that. And this is the e.l.f. Contour Wand, $42, $9. And as I went through this video, I also just dug out my highlighter from both of these brands just to throw those on for good measure. So it's kind of a double Friday face-off. So we're gonna apply both of these products and then we're gonna wear them for about 8.5 hours, we'll see, and do another review. I've got T-zone skins, so products are gonna be on oily skin up here and dry skin on the cheeks. So we're gonna get a pretty good review and see how these hold up. Before I meet you on the other side of the intro, this is a good time to hit that subscribe button. I love having you guys here. Leave me any comments on any other Friday face-offs that you'd like to see, and let's get into it. All right, you guys, let's just get into this because I need some contour on my face. Right now I'm frantically searching for my hair pullback clips because I need to pull back my hair because one of the main places that I like to put contour is right around the forehead area because I have an enlarged forehead. That's not really true. As I've gotten older and I feel like my hairline is getting more receding, I like to just contour this area so that I don't feel like my forehead is quite as large. I know we all have our thing. And that's my thing. I also like to contour right through the cheeks. And if you've got more full cheeks and you want to create a structured cheekbone, contour is really good for that, as well as a contoured jawline. If you feel like you have a double chin or you feel like you don't have that structure in a jawline as well as that cheekbone, then contour can be really helpful for that. The question is, how much do you need to spend on contour and what kind of contour do you want to use? Do you want to use more of a powder or more of a cream? As we age, I prefer cream in any type of product that I can get my hands on. My blush is cream, my highlighter is cream, I like my contour to be cream. I even like to use a little bit more cream eyeshadow nowadays than I used to. So for me, in my combination skin, cream is a better option. So to set the framework, I have combination skin. I am oily in the T-zone, which I'm glad in this case because we are going to put contour on my forehead where I am more oily, as well as on my cheeks where I'm more dry. So we'll get a sense to see how these products wear on different skin types. Well, on one skin, my skin, but you know what I mean, oily and dry. So let's get into it. Before we put these on, let's just go through the products themselves. This one by Charlotte Tilbury is 0.4 ounces. It sells for $42 and it comes in 2 shades. It's a semi-matte finish and it is said to be easily blendable and it's also cruelty-free. This one by e.l.f. is 0.33 ounces, so you can see it's a little bit smaller. It sells for $9 and comes in 5 shades. The Charlotte Tilbury has 4.6 star reviews on Ulta and the e.l.f. has 4.5 stars. So very similar in terms of the reviews, what people like and don't like about both of these products. There is a difference in size between the two tips. You can see the Charlotte Tilbury is much larger than the e.l.f. And to get the product out, you twist the top to open it and then you press to release some of the product up through the top of the applicator. So you can see this is the width of the Charlotte Tilbury and this is in light medium. And the e.l.f., same process, just twist it from the bottom. The e.l.f., this is also light medium, and you can see how wide the strip is of product from the size of that sponge tip applicator. So we're just gonna start by putting this on top of my existing foundation, and I'm going to put about the same amount on both sides because I wanna see how these wear and really how they blend out. There's the Charlotte Tilbury side, and to make sure I'm not too crazy today, let's do that amount on. Yeah, I think that looks pretty even. And then I'm just gonna put a little bit along my nose. I don't usually contour my nose, But let's just do that today because let's just put contour everywhere. Now when it comes to a cream contour, both of these say that they are a semi-matte, natural look, buildable coverage. So I hope that's the case. I'm going to use one of the brushes from BS Mall. I talked about these the other day. This is just a real soft dual fiber brush. You can apply your contour and then blend with a damp beauty sponge, or you can use a light soft brush. You can even blend it with your fingers. I like to use a blending brush like this because it just allows me a little bit more control. I feel like I can sculpt the look of my face better this way. So let's start with the Charlotte Tilbury side. You can see how easy it blends really nicely on top of my skin, on top of that foundation. It's not hard to move, and it's definitely not hard. I mean, that blended super easy. So far I'm loving that about this product. We're gonna set this with a little bit of a contour or a bronzing powder. If you have oily skin, you might wanna apply a powder bronzer or a powder contour instead of cream. If you have dry skin, then a cream product works best, but you wanna just set it with a light touch of a bronzing or a contour powder just to really lock it in place. So that Charlotte Tilbury, you guys, blends out super easy. You see all I'm doing is holding my brush towards the back and I am dotting and pressing just to not move it around. I really just want to softly pounce to blend that in. And same up here. It blends out really, really nicely. I don't see that it's grabbing onto any dry patches of skin or anything. So I can see why this one is so popular. It blends out like a dream. Now, if the e.l.f. one blends out as easily and can last as long, I'm pretty impressed with this formula. So we're gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna put my blush on after I contour just because I didn't wanna blur the look of what this contour would look like by having a blush on there for you guys. So there you go, couple easy steps. That would all take less than a minute to blend if I wasn't talking along the way, but really pretty, nice, natural contour. And for that being as dark as it is, I'm surprised that it blended out that nicely. But I have more light to medium skin on the cool side, and that's a really nice color. And again, with Charlotte Tilbury, there's only 2 shades to choose from. So there you go, that's a nice look. All right, going over to the e.l.f. side, we are going to start down here. In fairness, the e.l.f. has been sitting on my skin a little bit longer and under the light, so it might have dried a little bit. So if it didn't blend out as well, I wouldn't necessarily call a flag on the field. I would just say that would be user error, but that's not the case. It is blending out nicely, even with it sitting on my skin as long as it did. So I really like doing these side-by-side comparisons because I never know going into these which is gonna work better, the more luxury brand or the drugstore brand. I love it when the drugstore brand performs as well, if not better, because it offers a better price point, and why spend the extra dollars if you don't have to? But I never really know going into these Friday face-offs which one is going to perform better. And I still don't know. I can tell you that right now they both went on really nicely. I do like the shade of the Charlotte Tilbury one better, but with 5 shades on the e.l.f. side, I could go up to a darker shade. Let me not forget my nose because that would look crazy if I didn't remember that, and I'm running around the grocery store today. And can we just talk about Girl Scout cookies for a second, you guys? I love Girl Scout cookies, but can somebody explain to me, and if any of you know why, please let me know, why do Girl Scout cookies come out right before summer? Can Girl Scout cookies come out in the fall when we're about to put on our sweatpants and hibernate for 3 months? But the fact that Girl Scout cookies drop 2 months before summer close, it just seems like a bit of a conundrum for me. And maybe I just need to use better self-control, but it's Girl Scout cookies and Samoas and Thin Mints. It's tough to control yourself. At least it is for me. That's what the contour looks like on both sides. I think, and I wasn't gonna do this, but let's just do this as well. I have the highlighter for the Charlotte Tilbury and I have the Halo Glow highlighter on the e.l.f. side. I wasn't gonna review these along with the contour because I thought, well, if the contour works, the highlighter should work. Let's just put these on after some blush to see how the highlighters of both of these products wear with the contour. We'll get a double today out of Friday Face Off. I love it. All right, I'm just gonna add a little bit of blush And I'm using the Rare Beauty. This is in the color Hope. I shared with you guys not too long ago that my husband and I adopted a dog. We rescued her from a shelter. And she's been so funny to watch her integrate herself into my filming schedule. You can hear in some of the videos, if you listen real closely, that she's down on the floor in front of the camera down there, just kind of listening and sleeping. But as she's gotten more comfortable, once I turn on the studio lights, she leaves the room. It's almost like my voice or my talking is disturbing her nap time. So while I'd love to say she's sitting here with me taking a nap while I'm filming, no, she has found her way to the living room whenever I start to film. It's like, I'm sorry, am I disturbing you? So going to the highlighter, the sponge tip applicator is same sizes as the other ones. Here is the, and the application's the same. You just press it through the top. There's the e.l.f. and here is the Charlotte Tilbury. The highlighter for Charlotte Tilbury is the Pillow Talk, and then the highlighter for e.l.f. is Champagne. I didn't purchase the highlighters with the intent of doing a side-by-side comparison, so that's why they don't really entirely match the same colors, but that's okay. No one's gonna be that close to me today that we need to worry about what my highlighter looks like. I've been using the highlighters much more than the contour because I really wanted to leave the results of the contour to a Friday face-off and not have any preconceived notions as to how they were gonna perform. But I have been using the highlighter and I was curious to see if the tube or the lid was any different. And what I mean by that is, do you start to get a bunch of extra product? Does it start to ooze out the side? Does it come around the bottom of the lid when you close it? You know, all those things that we don't like about a product. And I have to say that I have not noticed that it does anything different than the Charlotte Tilbury one. So the application, the packaging is all very, very similar. It's just a matter of the product and how they wear. So now that I have them both on my cheek, I will grab my Real Techniques fan brush, which I like to use for a highlighter, no matter if I'm using a powder or a cream. And again, you can use your fingers. You don't have to use a brush for your highlighter or any of your makeup. Some people really prefer to use their fingers, and I say just do whatever works best for you. I like a fan brush when it comes to my highlighter because I like my highlighter to be just in a little strip, just like that. And last, I'm gonna add just a slight bit of powder. You saw I'm not from the UK. Anyway, I'm gonna use the Angie Hot and Flashy. This is the A507 Angular Tapered Brush. And I'm gonna use the Nude Honey Bronzer by Pat McGrath, which I've been loving. And we're just gonna add a touch of bronzer on top of that contour on both sides, just to set it a little bit. I think that's a fair assessment because my forehead is a little more oily and I want to see how these hold up to oil. We'll add a little bit of bronzer where we contoured the cheeks and then just a little bit down here. A little bit on the side of the nose, and that's it. I use such a light amount of bronzer, you guys, that if you find that you don't want to add a little bit of powder on top of that contour, then you should be able, your results should be pretty similar. The thing I like about adding just a touch of bronzer where I put my contour, but not powder on my whole face, is I like the varying degrees of finishes. I like that my skin is more shiny right through here and more highlighted, and that it's a little bit more matte or powdered back around the edges of the face. So the different finishes from a powder finish to a unpowdered finish, I think gives just a more natural look to the makeup versus your whole face being powder from your powder blush to your powder under eyes. I like the different, I like some areas not being powdered. That does it. I'm gonna go wash my hand before I make a huge mess. I'm gonna check in with you guys and we will see. Here's the Charlotte Tilbury finished look. I think it looks beautiful. Here's the e.l.f. side. It's equally blended. I can't really tell a difference. The only thing I do notice is some patchy spots right up here, but that is my skin. I forgot to exfoliate last night, and I know that if I don't exfoliate, then I just have these weird dark spots on this side of my head. That is not the product, that is my face, and that's just what we have to work with. So there you go, Charlotte Tilbury, e.l.f., $42 or $84 if we're including the highlighter, versus $18. So far it's a no-brainer, but let's see what happens throughout the day. All right, you guys, I've got this weirdest song stuck in my head. I'm not gonna share with you what it is because then it'll be stuck in your head. And for the next several hours, you will be cussing me out silently, like, why did you put that song in my head? But it's one that's like, we must have sang it in junior high music class because it's not on the top of the charts in any genre. So I don't even know, but yeah, I won't share on this one because you'll thank me for not. All right, let's get into, maybe because it's been 9.5 hours and I meant to check in earlier, but I started editing some shorts and that sounds so funny. I started editing shorts. You know what I mean, shorts on YouTube. Anyway, focus, Jody. This is what happens when it's been like too much work in a short amount of time and there's been little time for breaks. I get a little bit cuckoo. Okay, so it has been 9.5 hours. So let's take a look at these products. We've got contour, oily areas on both sides. We've got contour and dry patches, and then we have some highlighter. So let's do the contour first because that was sort of the main product of today's Friday Face Off. On the oily patches of my skin, here is the Charlotte Tilbury side. I think after 9.5 hours, it still looks really pretty. And then down through here, the contour where my skin is more dry, I also think it wears really, I mean, it still looks pretty even to me. And remember we set it with a little bit of bronzer. I don't feel like it's really worn off in either area, and my hair is down. So I was curious to see where my skin is more oily and my hair up and down, you know, rubbing it all day, if it would wear off much. I feel like it's about 70% color that it was earlier. So it's faded a little bit, but again, given the conditions of oil and hair, I'm fine with it. On the e.l.f. side, same thing. I feel like it wore about the same as the Charlotte Tilbury side. Now again, you guys don't judge the freckles right through here. That's my own deal. That's not the product. So yeah, I think they wore about the same. In terms of the contour where it's more dry, again, I feel like they wore about the same. I can still see a little bit of shadowing right here and here on both sides. I would have preferred a darker color in the e.l.f., but that's the only negative that I have. And again, that's user error. And then down here, I feel like it's worn a little bit more on the Charlotte Tilbury side than the e.l.f. side, but not enough to deduct points for either side. In terms of the highlighter, here's the e.l.f. side. You can still see a nice shiny bit of highlighter. I don't feel like my pores are accentuated through that area. Yeah, and it doesn't look excessively shiny to me. Let's go back to the contour for a second. Both of these contours said that they are a semi-matte finish, and I would say that after 9.5 hours, I feel like they're both a semi-matte finish. I don't feel like, especially in the oily areas, they didn't get shiny throughout the day, and I sort of was curious to see, well, I was really curious to see if they would do that, and they didn't. There's no more shine, which is important because when you're using a contour, you don't want it to be shiny at all. You don't want to see any oil breaking through that contour. Then it just becomes sort of a slippery mess. So they both still have that semi-matte finish to them. And again, in terms of the highlight, that highlight I think is really pretty on the e.l.f. side. And I love the Charlotte Tilbury as well. I think that looks really pretty. So looking at how all 4 of these products performed, I do have winners and losers. That sounds so mean. Winners and losers. So in terms of the contour, the one I would reach for, no contest because they performed very similar and the price point is a no-brainer. It's the e.l.f. Now, do I have the same opinion when it comes to the highlighter? No. I would not reach for the e.l.f. when it comes to the highlighter. It's the Charlotte Tilbury. And why is that? Well, when you look at the highlighter, I can see a little bit of a difference in the way they look. This one just looks a little more natural to me, less textured, I would say, where the e.l.f. one just feels a little bit more textured on my cheek. I may be the only one that can see that difference. But when it comes to the highlighter, that is just such a main point of your face because it's not something that's hidden behind your hair or your jawline. Highlight is something that is very obvious. So for me, the highlighter's got to be really perfect. When it comes to the contour, my go-to will be the e.l.f. When it comes to the highlighter, my go-to would be Charlotte Tilbury. Well, that wraps up today's Friday Face Off. This was a fun one for me because I've been wondering about these two products. Everything on the outside, the packaging, it all looks very, very similar to one another. And I was curious to see if the products, how do they line up? Because Charlotte Tilbury products are phenomenal quality and it's all the rage and everybody wants to have a Charlotte Tilbury product. It can just be really expensive, and $42 for that contour, I don't see a difference. Highlighter, I definitely do. That does it for me today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this Friday Face Off. Let me know in the comments what else you'd like to see. I'll leave a link to all these products down below in case you want to learn anything more about them or purchase them for yourself. I'll see you in just a couple days. Bye-bye.